Now we'll take a look at the critical reading section. Remember, in the critical reading sections, you're looking for the best answer. Now, best answer to them can mean the best of 4 bad choices. You look down there and go, none of these are any good, and you'd be right, none of them are. But one will be better than the other 4. Flip side of that, a little bit harder. They'll give you 2 correct answers. If you're trying to support them, you could support either one. The trick to beating this is to read to eliminate answer choices. Rather than looking to include answers, look for the word or the phrase that helps you eliminate the answer choice. Reading to eliminate answer choices is crucial on critical reading tests for the rest of your career. When you come to the passage, you want to read the questions first. This gives you an idea of what's in the passage. It sets you up so that you're attacking the questions, but also it's preventative. You want to know about a couple of questions in advance as you read the passage. For instance, if they ask a question about the organization of the passage, you want to know about that as you're reading the passage. If they want to know about the role a particular paragraph plays, you want to know about that before you're reading. And they occasionally will ask, or they'll say, the author used all of the following to defend his argument except. You want to know the techniques and literary devices used to defend the argument. Now we'll look at the types of passages on the tests. The ACT will draw its content from 4 areas. They have a humanities passage, a prose fiction passage, a social studies passage, and a passage from one of the natural sciences. The SAT will have 1 from U.S. or world history, 2 from history and social studies, and 2 from science.
Well, let's take a look at the type of questions you're liable to see on the reading section of the test. First of all, you're going to see some factual questions. Questions like, according to this passage, or the following were addressed in the passage except. The answer choices will be in the passage. They won't be verbatim like you're used to seeing on tests at school, but they will be there. The key to factual or line reference questions is you've got to be sure that you look before and after that line reference. It's very seldom that you find the answer choice directly in the line reference they give you. And remember, they're looking for details about the passage that you pick up from reading the entire passage. Let's look at an example of a line reference question. Why does the author refer to Ma Yidan's life in line 6? Okay, we want to know why the author's referring to the life in line 6. Remember, you want to look above and below. In this case, it's going to be below the line. When do immigrants adopt their cultural identity? Ma Yidan, for instance, was born in China, resided in Italy, England, France, Russia, and in India. Mary Wang also typifies this identity dilemma in that her mother was Chinese and Italian and her father was Chinese. Alright, the specific line reference is Ma Yidan, being born in China, residing in these different countries. The key phrase, though, is Mary Wang typifies this identity dilemma. So there's a problem with this. The reason they're bringing up Ma Yidan is to show an example of having an identity dilemma because they're living in different countries. Now let's look at our answer choices. Looking at our answer choices, in A we see to make evident the complications in identifying oneself after multiple relocations. That could be it, because this is showing that there's a problem. B, nope, this is advantageous, so we can rule that out. C, to show how social class sways how people view ethnic identity. No, it's more internalized than that. It's an identity dilemma that the people are having. D, to enumerate the not benefits, and to explain the disjoining results of excessive travel. Okay, there's disjoining there, but we're not talking about travel. We're talking about where they live. So A is our answer choice. But you see, the answer was not in line 6. It was around line 6. There was a reference point for line 6, but the real clue came a couple of lines below that. Now with inference questions, you're taking a piece of information in the passage and drawing a logical conclusion from what you see in the passage. As an example, if you called me long distance on the phone and said, "What's the weather like?" and I said, "Sunglasses and shorts," I didn't say it was sunny. I didn't say it was warm. But you deduced from what I did say it's sunny and warm. You made an inference. You took the information I gave you and drew a conclusion. And that's all you do here. Now, the SAT has two types of inference questions. The first type, and really the rarer one, is author logic or outside inference. They direct you outside the passage. You can use your common sense here. The question might be, this author would most likely agree with, or the passage or paragraph that most likely follows this it about. In this case, it's okay to go outside the passage and use your common sense. In this case, you can be very logical. Now, the type of inference question you are much more likely to see is an implication question. Now, by implication, this means you're directed inside the passage. Your information can only come from the passage. These would be questions like, it can be inferred from what the author wrote in line 52, or from the way the word up was used in line 20. You can infer. You're confined to the passage. For instance, if they're using the word up to mean down in the passage, that's what you've got to say it means. These are crucial. Remember, you're confined to the passage. You can't bring in your outside logic. You just draw a deduction from the passage. There's a main idea question with every one of the reading passages. Now, main idea questions are fairly predictable. One of the answer choices will be too broad. It'll go way beyond what the passage actually covers. Much greater scope. Concomitantly, one will be too narrow. It'll cover what part of the passage was about. Maybe even a crucial part of the passage, but it won't be the main idea. Now, you'll probably see a line out of context. You'll recognize the phrase or the words as being in the passage, but they just don't have anything to do with the main idea of the passage. Now, this is the strange one. There's one of them that's going to look great. It'll look scholarly, look educated. It may well be a phrase you want to agree with, but it's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the main idea of the passage. It may not have anything to do with the passage at all, but it'll be a grand-sounding, educated-looking statement. Thankfully, one of them will be correct. Now, we found one of the ways to identify the correct choice for the main idea is to, once you've narrowed it down, usually to two answer choices, look at the first and the last of the passage. See what the author's talking about at the first and the last. That's a really good way to eliminate one of the answer choices, because if they're talking about it at the first and the last, most likely that's your main idea. They will also ask what we'll call compare and contrast questions. Now, these compare and contrast questions are where they're wanting you to compare and contrast two different viewpoints, or maybe three different viewpoints in a few rare cases. But you're supposed to find similarities and differences between these viewpoints. They'll also ask you cause and effect questions. They'll want to see if you can see the relationship between a cause and an event that is affected or occurs because of something else. It's a result. They'll also ask you to generalize. Now, when you're making a generalization, what you're doing is you are simplifying from a complex series of events or from a complex statement. You're trying to draw a simple answer from it, a generalization. They also may ask you about a sequence of events. What happened in what sequence in a passage? There'll be questions about the author's voice and method, the style with which the author expressed him or herself, or how they were trying to convey something to the reader, or how they were trying to relate to the reader. The question could also involve technically looking at the author's techniques for expression.